like this. We're going to talk about the project. I understand your paper, I mentioned this last time, is actually not due. I thought it was due today, because that's how my brain works. I told you I'm not good with dates, I've said this many times. It's not due till Friday.
Oh, perfect.
That is some weirdly good news, right? Now I'll say this, if some of you might have turned in the paper technically ahead of time, even though it's, I know what I told you, if you did that and you'd like more time to work on it, now you have it, okay? What I would say is, what I would usually do is delete your paper so you can resubmit. Unfortunately, they've changed Turn It In such a way that if I delete a paper, you can't submit after that, which to me feels stupid. I don't know what the point of that function is now. So, if, and I know this will be a small percentage, but if you have submitted a paper, and now you're like, oh shit, and you want to work on it some more, I think you should, okay? Email me with that decision so that I don't go ahead and grade your paper, because I don't want to grade it twice. That would just bum me out. And when it's due, you have to email me a copy rather than upload it to Turn It In, because Turn It In kind of sucks in that one aspect. All right, that little bit of news out of the way. The project. I know I've mentioned this several times this semester. The term project, while applicable to what we're going to do, okay, I think is a bit of a misnomer. I know sometimes when you guys hear the word project, you think it's sort of a large-scale time sink, right? It's going to be a real motherfucker to have to do this. That's not the point, okay? That's not the goal here. So the way I talk about it is this. I understand, I was a student in college for 10 years. I remember finals week. I know, and we're not there yet, but you'll see. Typically, for most students, finals week is awful. You have final papers, you have final exams, and it's all roundabout in the same week, which feels crazy. But that's how the schedule works, and there, admittedly, there's not really a lot most teachers can do considering how the schedule is built, right? That's just kind of how it has to be. But as a student, it's awful. So maybe 2 years ago now, I don't remember exactly, I had the bright idea, well, if we move through papers 2 and 3 a hair quicker, that will allow you time at the end to still do some work, that's what this is, okay? But this is way less involved than a paper, way less intense. And I feel like, I hope, in some small way, I can take a little bit of the pressure off when it comes to that finals week that is fast approaching, at least in terms of this class. I can't do anything about your other classes. So all that is to say, I want you to take the assignment seriously, and we are going to talk about what the assignment even is. But before we get into that, I do want you to know it's not meant to be like a final in the way that maybe some of your other, that's what you're turning in on Friday. Your final paper, that's what I want you to put more time and effort into, maybe stress about a little bit. This is not meant to be that, okay? All right, so what is it? It's due 11/28, so we have some time on it. Today's the 2nd. And I'll say this too, if I were you, and if you haven't turned in a paper, or if you're gonna work on it, it's due Friday, I wouldn't even bother much with this until after you get the paper in. Like, if you have some spare thoughts, I would write them down for the project. Outside of that, don't bother with it until we turn in the paper, okay? 20-ish minutes. You can be a little bit short on the 20 minutes, like 15, Anything shorter than 15, I would kind of wonder if you're doing much. And again, we're gonna talk about it, don't freak out. It's 5% of your grade, that's not nothing. Honestly, most of the time, that 5% for a lot of students ends up being the difference between a C and a B, B and an A D and a C, which I know no one wants to. But again, the difference between passing and not, basically. So you do want to take it seriously. All that said, what is it? What the hell are we doing? I sum it up in one sentence, which I don't usually do. It's a podcast, basically. And I give you some questions here, some things to think about that I hope are helpful. Of course, I'm not going to read that at you. But essentially, the point is this. Over the course of this semester, we've engaged with several texts. We've had conversations. You've done a little bit of research now. It's my sincere hope that while I can't imagine most of your behavior online has changed, like that's a big thing to try to do, I would hope, if only now, when I ask you, that you could reflect upon that a little bit. Think about it. What are the sorts of things I do? Why am I doing them? Does any of it feel like, am I doing any of it for weird reasons or for things that when I investigate it kind of make me feel strange or I have questions about why I'm doing these things? Like, conversation like that is what I'd like you to have for the project. Now, I also sum it up as a podcast because you'll turn it in virtually, right? You'll turn it in on CourseDen when you go to Unit 4, which is where this is, right? This is the last thing we're doing. Unit 4, all the way at the bottom, there's a submission Dropbox, and you submit it just like you do homework, okay? I'm going to tell you this, and I'll remind you when we get there. The only thing about using CourseDen, it sometimes doesn't play super well with certain formats. So depending on, and this is going to get just in the weeds a little bit, but bear with me. Depending on what format your video file is in, if you decide to do a video, CourseDen may not like it. And if that's the case, all you got to do is the same thing I do with our class videos. You upload it to YouTube first, then you would put the link to that video in a document, then you would upload the document. If, on the other hand, you do audio only, which is also a thing you can do, CourseDen tends to appreciate that a little bit more. The trade-off there is, weirdly, in 2022, it's way easier to record video than it is audio. I don't know if you've ever tried to just record audio, like on your phone or something. It's kind of not awesome a lot of the time. So these are decisions you'll have to make at some point along the way, okay? And again, I'll remind you as the due date gets closer about that one technical issue. Is that a sneeze?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, as of right now, and we're going to talk about it, but as of right now, does anybody have any questions about this or thoughts or concerns or anything? Yes, ma'am.
Do like everybody usually just like video over their camera roll, or like do they use an app? Because I know sometimes my phone cut off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ugh. I think usually people just use their phones.
Okay.
But if you have some kind of like malfunction type, it sounds like I would think about maybe another way to do it. I will say too, you just reminded me, and you didn't ask this, but you can also do this with a partner. I should have said that before. You don't have to. That's not required. You can do it solo. You can do it like with one or two people at most. Anything more than that, and it gets unwieldy. I've had people try to do it with 5 or 6, and that's a throng. Like that's not going to work. But so, for instance, maybe if you have a partner or a roommate that like is cool, or just like, hey, can I borrow your phone for like an hour, type of thing. Because yeah, that sounds. I wouldn't want to have to trust that, right? I mean, but a lot of laptops these days you record that way. Like, maybe think about some options. I would try to avoid the phone maybe, because that's weird. I don't know what that is. Good question. Hadn't anticipated that. Other questions, or thoughts or concerns, or anything you're not sure about? Okay. All right. So what I want to do now, with you, admittedly reticent to speak people, what I like to do with projects especially is try to give you some kind of an example, and rather than make like a podcast myself and have you listen to it, that feels odd. I'd rather just do it here, okay? And look, all the questions that are on the prompt, I would say those are a starting point. By no means do you have to stick to those. By no means do you have to use those. I mean, you can go in your own direction, but really, all I want you to try to do, to the best of your ability, along the same lines we've talked about it this semester, think about your own online persona. Because it is that, right? Oh, I just had a thought. This will be fun. Yeah, hold on. I've never done this before. This is probably a mistake. Let's do this. I want to really impress upon you what I mean by persona. Does anyone know what that word means? I don't think we've talked about that. I'm signed in as this person. Oh my God, sign out of your stuff. Does anyone know what the word persona even means? Huh? Nobody knows? Oh, okay. A persona is a character. Maybe it's got some element of you in there oftentimes. Like even with great actors, you know, if you see them in a lot of movies, sometimes their characters can start to feel kind of similar because at the end of the day, it is the same person playing all these different people, right? But a persona is a public face, oftentimes not really you, right? I've never tried to log in on Twitter on a computer, so I don't know if you guys have either. This is weird. There we go. If anyone can read that, you should also not sign up for email in 6th grade. That's what my name's about. Anyway, nope, that's not it. That'll do it. All right, I just want to show you. Oh, it's my profile on it. There it is. This is my profile. Got nothing to do with me at all. That's my online persona. So anyone who interacts with me, there are no pictures of me up here. This is it. Nightmare Gorilla at the Demon Circus because I'm an insane person. But I say all that to say, I'm going to tell you a little story about an interaction I had on Twitter over the weekend, actually. But I have such details as I was born in 1955, which I was not. I don't know how old you guys think I am. I'm not that old. You know, I got a dog in a hot dog costume. I got a really scary face. I drew for one of my kids one time because something's wrong with me. But anyway, I never actually quite appreciated it until just now, like telling you this now, that anyone I talk to on Twitter, this is what they see, right? And probably that could shape a little bit of what they think when they talk to me, you know? Anyway, so let's talk about what they did. I can't actually show you because they blocked me. So I can't show you what they said. I'm just going to tell you about it. And understand, before we get into it, I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. I'm going to avoid details because it's a football argument. What a wild world we live in. This person got so offended by me during our football argument that they blocked me. More on that in a second. So, my online presence. Let's start there. That's what the project's supposed to be. Honestly, and I have my hair hanging down, it's killing me, I'm sorry. Honestly, I'm not online very much, which is weird because I teach this class, but several years ago, it just struck me that I didn't like doing it, that it honestly, and this is not shade by the way, but honestly it felt like a waste of time most of the time. So now, like I check Facebook every morning because my wife will put up pictures of our kids sometimes. And I'm on Twitter when the Falcons are playing. Legit, that's it. Because there's like there's a thing such as football Twitter, specifically Falcons Twitter, and we commiserate because the Falcons have been bad for most of my life. And so it's kind of fun. I think this is a healthy use of social media to go on during the game, normally when the Falcons are losing, and or at the very least fucking up pretty hard, and you just talk to each other, right? In the way that fans can talk to each other, and a lot of time you talk shit. I assume you guys are familiar with that phrase, right? And you're just talking like, I can't believe, man, So, and it's just making each other feel better. I don't think it doesn't normally get really toxic at all, actually. I think it's pretty healthy to do this. I said a thing. I just said a thing on Twitter. I'm kind of curious if this has ever happened to any of you. I said something to the effect of, I can't believe we have a veteran quarterback who never looks downfield. We have a guy, Marcus Mariota, he's in like his 8th year or something. He's been playing for a long time. And he does a thing that normally rookie quarterbacks do, which is once they look down at the rush, like people coming after him, they never look up again. He does that. That's all I said. Somebody took that personally. Someone I've never spoken to, and I guess will never speak to again because they blocked me, took issue with that. And we had a back and forth, and I kept saying, well, first of all, this person kept saying things like, you all. He kept referencing me in the plural. And I kept saying things like, hey man, I don't think you're actually speaking to anything I said. It sounds like you're talking to some general idea that you might have. I'm literally saying things like this to this guy. Like, I feel like I'm mostly trying to diffuse the situation. I'm like, I don't think you're talking to me. Because one, he wasn't addressing anything I was saying. He was just defending this guy. And I was like, that's not even what I said. Like, it's on Twitter. You can go back and look. Like I kept saying, just look up above this and what I said. And if you want to talk about it, we can, but I'm not going to have a conversation with somebody who's not talking to me, right? It's weird. It was weird. We went back and forth. At one point in the game, Mariota did look back up, and I knew it. I knew it. And here's the fun part about this. This is the weird world we live in. This is all happening live. So we're all watching the game together separately. That's strange. And my phone goes off because this guy's hit me back. He's like, I did it that time. You like that, motherfucker? Like something like that. And I hit him back because I teach argument for a living. Exception does not prove the rule. Which means if you find the one time he didn't do it, that doesn't mean he doesn't do it the rest of the time, you fucking idiot. But I didn't say any of that. I just said, exception doesn't prove the rule. Woo, that set him off. To speak to him respectfully, rather than, call him a moron, which is exactly what I think he might be. Anyway, a little more of that. And finally he goes, I can't take any more of these personal attacks. You blah, blah, blah. And I was like, personal attacks? Because I disagreed with you? I want to give you guys the score, and then I want to have a conversation. Here's what happened. We disagreed. And to be super specific, he disagreed with me. I said a thing, not to him. I just said a thing. And he saw it on Twitter, because that's how Twitter works. And he decided to let me know that he disagreed. And at that point, I tried to have a conversation with him. He got pretty fucking upset, apparently, and took all my disagreement as personal attacks. Like, that's his language. And again, I can't show you because as soon as, and this is a great move that you may also be familiar with, as soon as he sent that, he blocked me. So I couldn't respond. What a loser. What a complete, probably adult man loser. And that's where we're at. I have a whole lot of thoughts about that and about this guy. But I'm curious. In the journey I just wove for you, it was probably an hour of my Sunday, maybe not even that much, right? I'm just curious. Have you guys had any similar interactions online? Disagreements, people blocking you, people taking personally the fact that you disagree? Do you know what I mean? Does any of that sound familiar to any of you? Well, I would like you to tell me about it, if you don't mind.
Well, one time, when like quarantine first happened.
Oh, everybody was stuck inside on their phones, I imagine.
Yeah, it was like this huge argument like within my high school. People like arguing on live with each other.
About what?
They were just, everybody was upset, I guess. I don't know. It was like every day. Everybody was on live arguing.
Just new stuff to fight about, but they were always fighting.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But it was entertaining to me and my friends. We thought it was funny.
Okay.
And they were asking for like our opinions and like the comments and like on the live video. So
Well, you keep saying live. Is this like Facebook Live?
it's like Instagram Live.
Okay.
So then we had shared.
Doesn't Facebook own Instagram?
I don't know. I think
Might.
so.
Can we even go live on Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I'm saying I think that it's all basically the same. Is part of my point.
Yeah.
But I was just curious. Okay.
But they had asked for our opinions in the comments, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna say anything.
I was curious if you gave yours.
But like, oh no, I did end up doing it. But 'cause me and my friends, we were so interested. This was the only entertainment that we had.
That's true.
Stuck in
Weird.
our house.
It's like reality TV with people you know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And we were finding out so much stuff. So she was like,
Finding out so much stuff,
yeah,
like
about-
gossip.
Yes. And we were so interested. And she was like, she said something along the lines of like, did you think so and so said this about whatever? And it was like 40 people in the live at that point. So I gave my opinion.
And then you regretted it?
No, I didn't regret it.
No, I mean, I'm curious what happened after you gave your
Oh.
opinion, if anybody...
Her friends had like DM'd me on Instagram and they were like so mad. And they were calling me stupid. They were like, you should never gave your opinion, blah, blah, blah. And then we just started going back and forth.
given your opinion.
We had nothing else to do, so.
Well, but isn't that kind of... This is an interesting idea, because this is, in a way, what this guy said, right? Like, what stuck with me, the only reason I brought it to your attention, he blocked me, and honestly, I was happy he did, because he sounds like an idiot. But the personal attacks thing, I was like, what? How do we exist in the same dimension? Like, we disagreed. Every time we did. That's personal? To not agree with somebody is an attack. A personal attack. I for sure had thoughts. I could have personally attacked him. I kind of wanted to. I would kind of like to. But I didn't. I was a good boy. And it blew my mind that he got heated. Like, and that was part of the fun for me. Again, I'm gonna be transparent with you guys. It was kind of fun because I recognized pretty early that like, I'm really upsetting this idiot. That's great, you know? I wasn't playing along. Maybe that upset him more. I honestly don't know. The fact that I didn't use the same like go the same route he was going, right? But at the end of the day, it's similar. Why did you should never offered your opinion? It's like, bitch, they asked for it. What are you talking about?
And it's funny, they were all in like a room together too. And like they were trying to fight each other at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like we stayed up late.
I've heard students tell me this before, like you'll be in a room with friends on whatever social media platform together. So like you're hanging out, but also not.
Yeah,
Right.
talking.
What is that?
I don't know. Me and my friends, like, we do that when we go eat too. I don't know why. But like
Isn't that
we'll talk, but like we'll be on our phones and we'll like send each other stuff.
Well, that's the picture I have on Courstin. Is a woman at lunch or whatever with some friends, and they're all on phones, and she's sitting there wanting to talk to any of them, but they're all doing this, you know? And I'm not saying there's no interaction, right?
Yeah.
But it's still, and again, I mean, admittedly, I'm from a different generation. Like, I got a Facebook account in college. One of my buddies made me sign up. He was like, it's this new thing. Because it was a new thing. You had to get invited to, right? Like, that's how new it was. Gmail used to be the same way. You had to get an invite to have a Gmail account. It was brand new, and they were trying to, like, scale it up, right? But so I'd love to hear from, I mean, I want to hear more from you, but I don't want it just to be me and you if possible. Do you guys ever do that, where you're in a room physically with other people, but I guess virtually you're also kind of separate, you know? Like for the most part? Do you guys ever do any, I'll be honest with you, crazy shit like that? To my brain, that's bananas. Like that's wild that anyone would do that. Do you guys do that stuff?
We all do it. We all do it.
Why, help, I don't mean this in any kind of a negative way, but like help me understand. Like why, because look, I mean, from someone from my perspective, looking at that, it looks a lot like, again, the subtitle of our class is Alone Together, right? Like you are together, but you're also not, for the most part, right? Does that feel fair? Does it feel unfair? I would love to hear like.
Oh, no, that's true. Cause like, I guess we spend so much time on our phones, it kind of doesn't even like register to us, like we're actually on our phones.
It's just natural.
Yeah, because like in my house for dinner, your phone can't come downstairs with you when you eat.
Yeah.
But we have a TV in our dining room.
Yeah. I mean, like my boys will watch YouTube when we're eating, like on the TV. They watch Minecraft YouTube.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're doing that and probably listening to a podcast. And I mean, in defense of us, they are 5 and 7. It's not like we're gonna have great conversation, but we do try to. We've thought about that a little bit, but it's also like, what do you do to like fight that? I mean, I guess we'll have to have rules at some point to try to.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, and it's troubling when we take the tablet. Or last night, I kicked him off of Minecraft because it was time for bed. Dude, you thought I would have stabbed him. For real. Like they go, ah! Like it. And the 7-year-old is really dramatic. He looks outside. This is a classic kid move. He looks outside and he goes, it's not even dark. It was 8 o'clock. It was pretty dark. And all of it is just sort of what I guess you get taught is normal to a degree, right? Which is to say you could, and it would be difficult probably the older you get, but you could teach yourself or be taught something else as normal. The question would be, like you have to want to bad enough, I guess, to do that. And also, I mean, if this is normal, and it sounds pretty normal, I've heard about it from a lot of students, it's almost like a Snapchat party or something, right? Like, if everybody else is doing it, like, why would you change? It's not strange, right, to be doing that.
When we actually eat, we put our phones in and we eat and we talk.
That's nice, I suppose.
But like, if we get in there,
Because I see a lot of people who don't.
Yeah. Cause like my little brother, he's like your son's, like he grew up like he was like the age of 1 and they bought him like his own tablet.
We got our kids tablets. We do try to scale it back, but yeah, it's well, because I mean, again, from my perspective, I would imagine it's super different from yours because I have children. When we initially got into tablets, we were super worried about this stuff, and we're even more worried about it now. But I also, because it was my idea, I made the argument. This is at some point going to be a part of their lives, like tablets and phones, and just all the damn screens, right? It's going to be a part of their life. I don't want them to be the weird kid who's in school one day, like they use Chromebooks. My kids in 1st grade, they use Chromebooks to do stuff. That would have been mind-blowing. I remember we had one computer, and it was one of those old computers you may have seen in movies, like hacker movies, where they're like, break the cipher! They're screaming nonsense, and they're like, it was one of those. And you could use it for like 10 minutes once a week. That was our childhood. But my kids, they have Chromebooks, they have all these other things. I wanted to try to get them more used to this stuff. And like, I'm working with the 7-year-old now on how to search YouTube for Minecraft stuff. He's all at me. I have to type stuff in for him all the time. I'm like, look, man, this would be great practice for you. Not just typing, but spelling, because he's in 1st grade. He's bad at it. Like this, we're trying to. But it's mostly the world that he's going to have, that you guys have now. I want to prepare him for that, right? But the downside is exactly what you're talking about, which is I don't want it to go so far that we don't even look at each other, right? That he's just always on the damn. Like I gotta tell my kids all the time, put the tablet down when you're walking downstairs. My 5-year-old will try to watch Minecraft videos and walk downstairs. I'm like, what's wrong with you? He can barely get down the stairs as it is, and now he wants to, yeah. We can't talk much about kids, I imagine, because, you may have like a brother or sister, but you guys don't have kids. I'm still curious, when I told you about my journey over the weekend with this moron, who again, I didn't tell him he was a moron. I kind of wish I had. If he was going to block me anyway, I should have let him know. Like, dude, you're kind of an idiot. Anybody else have any maybe reality TV high school thing going on? Or have you ever talked to somebody on Twitter and it didn't go well? You know, did you ever make the mistake of posting a thing publicly and then that was the only mistake you made and people let you know about it? Like, how dare you have an opinion, which is hilarious because that is what it is. How dare you have an opinion that I don't agree with?
I deleted Twitter for that reason.
Yeah?
Yeah, because like the show Euphoria, everybody just like argue on Twitter about like what's
About a
gonna happen.
show?
Yeah, like that's big on Twitter. Like they'll argue about the
Yeah.
show, or they'll
Yeah.
like, make memes about it. And I like retweeted something. I think I posted something and like a whole bunch of people were disagreeing with me. That's so stupid. Why would you say that about the character? I
This
feel like-
fictional show that's scripted, how dare
Yeah,
you?
I feel like I'm just arguing with people, so I just ended up deleting it.
Well, the guy, so this is the Tristan Harris, the guy in the documentary we watched, he's kind of the main figure, you know, the redhead guy, little guy. He recently said, I think he's kind of changed his mind. He said he doesn't think Twitter is a town square. Like, you know, Pac-Man and Rogan were talking about this a little bit as well. He doesn't think it's a town square. He thinks it's a gladiator arena where you go in and it's all about dominating somebody. Like, I gotta be the one to call somebody out before I get called out. And that's his new theory on sort of how Twitter and things like it work. What do you guys think about that? Does that seem fair? Does it seem unfair? Do you think Twitter can be a happy place sometimes?
For memes, yeah.
For memes?
Yeah, that's it. Like if it's like funny stuff on Twitter, then it's funny. But
Yeah.
other than that, it's just a lot of people arguing with each other.
Well, so here's what's interesting. You bring that up. Given your description, it sounds like the only time you can ever get into hot water on Twitter, right, with other people, is when you share your personal opinion. Like, that's what we keep coming back to. As long as you don't share a thing that has nothing to do with your, like, perspective on the world, you're safe.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you maybe say, our veteran quarterback can't get his eyes off the rush, and if you don't know what that means, it's okay. But, like, or this fictional character, the only thing I know about Euphoria is, like, just gonna do a bunch of drugs and die. Like whatever. If you do anything like that, you're inviting someone's ire, right? You're inviting the, like, pretty aggressive, in my experience, disagreement. Does that feel, when I say does that feel fair, I'm saying does that feel accurate? Or does it not? I'm curious. What do you guys think? I'm gonna shut Maya down for 1 second. Because I mean, I want to hear, but I want to, classes have a tendency to go, oh, she's gonna talk, we're gonna. I've seen some of you nodding, by the way. I don't know if you realize you're doing that. I've seen some of you go, well, I'm just asking. What do you think about any of this? I have a theory. And since no one is talking right now because I said Maya can't talk for a minute, I'm gonna give you my theory. Maybe we'll talk about that. The past couple years, it's only been the past couple years, but I've been teaching since, we figured this out the other day, 2013. I've been teaching since 2013. So almost 10 years now. Basically as long as I was a student, I've been teaching now. I can remember, first of all, to be totally clear, when I started teaching in 2013, I wasn't much older than the people I was teaching. And occasionally, you get what's called a non-traditional student, which is like somebody who goes back to school after a bunch of years. I'd be teaching people that were older than me. That was upsetting. But I say that to say, obviously, perspective-wise, I could align with those people more. We were much closer in age. We were probably technically the same generation, so there's that. But I've seen a thing in the past couple of years where students don't want to speak in class. And that's not new, by the way. I didn't want to speak in class. I was a shy student until I got into my master's program, and I felt a little better about me, right? But I'll have students say in evals, or I'll have students tell me, like, privately after class, things like this. different versions of, they don't speak in class because they don't want to be wrong, like in front of everybody. Now my theory is, I think at least a little bit, that could come from the sort of interactions we're talking about on social media, which is you're much more hesitant to give your personal opinion, or really all I'm asking for is just like a thing that happened to you. Like a literal, yeah, this happened to me, like just a story. But I think, I worry that if you're on your phone all the time, and you said as much, and if when you're on your phone, you're kind of being trained to not offer your personal opinion, not offer anything personal at all, because it just invites attacks, invites argument, insults. I worry that's getting translated to the real world, right? Like right now, some of you have things to say, at least your body language has communicated that, but you're like, no, I'm not gonna. That's kind of crazy that it could impact your day-to-day life like that. I mean that, again, because I showed you my persona, Nightmare Gorilla. That's not really, I don't know if you know this, that's not really, I don't think, an accurate description of me, a Nightmare Gorilla, whatever the hell that is. So I'm able to separate. The only time I thought about that idiot that I keep telling you about over the weekend is because I wanted to talk to you about him, right? Otherwise, I don't give a shit. He's just a moron on Twitter. I kind of don't know if you guys can separate. Like maybe because it is a bigger part of your life. Several of you are on it right now, right? Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Maya, if you'd like to say something, you can. But you don't have to.
I feel like it's all true. Because we spend so much time on our phones and stuff.
Yeah.
So where it gets to the point to where like, I don't even know, like even when some people are talking to me, I kind of zone out. My phone is kind of like a distraction. Well, I mean it is.
So you'll go to it while they're talking?
Yeah, but like I can still hear them. And, like,
Yeah,
talk.
but are you
like,
processing what they say?
Something like if my mom is talking to me sometimes and like, that's, most of the time I don't hear it anyway, so I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
And like I hear what she's saying, but I'm like on my phone, so I'm just like, yeah, okay. But it kind of turns into like an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Because now when people are talking to me, I like tend to be on my phone a lot more. But I can hear them.
But again, did you really absorb it? It sounds like no sometimes.
No.
My wife does that to her mom sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
This is a grown woman to a very grown woman, right? This is a grandmother. And she'll be saying something, and my wife has one of those earbuds in. She'll be doing one of this. Her mom will go, "Did you hear anything I just said?" And she'll go, "Well, and she'll take that shit out of her ear. Because your mom can do that stuff, right? It's like, I'm talking to you. Listen, like, she's not wrong. She's not, but my wife is my age. Like, here's what's interesting, okay? I think sometimes, rightfully, you guys get a little bit of a pass with that stuff. Because you're kids. You're adults. Because we can, put you in the army and you can vote, you can smoke and buy porn and all that stuff. Like, so you're an adult. But, most of you, if you're not even a year out of high school at this stage, are you really so different from who you were in high school right now? Are you super different? Probably not. You were a kid then. Pretty much a kid now. You're growing. You're but you're pretty. So all that is to say, you get a pass for that stuff, just from society, right? Like that's what kids are gonna do. You're like, yeah, sure. But if you continue to do that, if you continue to behave like that, a couple years from now, eventually, you're like my wife. You're an adult, you're an actual adult, and you're still not listening to your mom. Yeah? So I'm not saying like we should fix it. Honestly, I feel like I don't know that there's much we can do, which is troubling. But it doesn't feel like a good thing.
No.
Yeah?
I do it to my mom. I don't do it to my dad though.
Because dad is scary.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to work the phone like that anyways. So he's like, put your phone down.
Yeah.
He's always like, all y'all do is sit on the couch and sit on your phones. And
Is he right?
Yeah, that's all we do. Like, we'll go out and stuff. Like, if we're at home, like, I'm not watching football with him, so he
Sure.
at the Falcons, so I'm just on my phone. And he's like, y'all need to do more. Like, when we have movie time,
That's good.
he canceled our movie times because he was like, all you have to do is sit on your phone.
You're on the phone during the movie?
Well, sometimes. And
Oh.
it's like, that's the thing. My dad doesn't know how to pick movies, so we sit there and they're boring.
Have you tried to talk to him about that? Or maybe you could do a thing where you have different picks. Like maybe he picks one movie night, then the next movie night, like, you pick.
Tried.
You tried that?
Yeah, like supposedly this weekend, like one of my dad's house, we're doing a bonfire.
Okay.
We're not on our phones as much, but like.
Good luck.
But he's like, he's a hypocrite though, because he spends so much time on this video game and
Yeah.
on TV
Yeah.
throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
We can't be on our phones. It's weird.
No, that's fair. Well, and part of it sounds like, I mean, yeah, a little bit hypocritical, yeah, sure. But as you said, he doesn't get how they're similar, maybe, because he understands probably what he's doing, but he doesn't understand your thing.
You don't even know how to work Facebook, nothing.
But so even that is, I mean, he's doing it too, and he doesn't even realize it, maybe, right? Even though your parents are trying to fight against it, they're trying to find ways to, but it's kind of getting them to, in a way, right? And again, I'm not immune to it. I'm not on really social media very much. I'm a big fan of podcasts, like history podcasts especially, or football podcasts, because maybe I need help. I just realized I probably said the word football to you a million times this semester. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I'll be listening to that stuff like around the house, and I don't do it as much as my wife. That makes me feel better, My boys are on their tablets a lot, and we have this big yard. Like, we bought the house for the big yard because we had a kid and we were gonna have another, and we were, we got to kind of kick them out of the house most of the time. Fucking go play. Like, we built a playground back there. There's all this cool stuff, and they just always want to be on their damn tablet or play Minecraft. And it's like, man, if it's not raining, or get outside, do something, be a kid, It's hard. So I'm saying I commiserate with you parents a little bit. It feels impossible, I think, from either side of the equation. It doesn't feel like you could. The documentary we watched at the beginning of the semester, they end with, different ways you can try to change, like meaningfully. And all of their recommendations were really small. And I'm not saying they can't have an impact. Like I have Twitter on my phone because I use it on Sunday for 3 hours. That's how long a football game is. Other than that, I'll check it occasionally for news because if a big thing happens, it'll pop up, But I don't use it otherwise. And that has helped me a bunch. But other than that, what can you do? Especially if you're in a world that works like that. Again, I know I made a joke earlier. Half of you are on your phones right now. Right now. And only half of those people looked up when I said that. The other half didn't hear me. Bananas. It's bananas. Like this makes me sound like a conspiracy theorist, but hear me out. What we're describing has only taken place in the past 10 years, say? 10 years? I think they give 2012 as the date that social media really got on phones, right? So 10 years. And it's to this. What might it look like 10 years from now? Or 20 years from now? At some point, some of you are going to have kids, and I know that's not okay, but that's how life works. And there you get phones. Or whatever the new thing is, by the way, Elon Musk, his company is building this thing called Neuralink. It's going to connect directly to your brain. I'm not making that up. You'll be on the internet in your brain. good luck telling your kid to turn that shit off. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you listening to me right now, or are you playing Call of Duty 57? What? You know, because it's, yeah, you had your hand up, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was stretching.
Well, I'm saying the trajectory we're on, I don't know that there's any way, like the momentum we have as a society, I don't know if there's any way to pull it back, right?
We're too far in, I don't think there is.
Does that bother anybody? Does it worry anybody?
No, like the Neuralink thing, I think that's just weird.
It's coming, man.
It's stupid.
They're gonna drill tiny holes in your skull for the wires and electrodes so they can.
Like, who would even get that? Like, that's so dumb.
Well, I mean, look, if you had talked to my grandparents when they were my age and said, we're gonna have this phone, you're gonna be on the internet all the time, they'd be like, that's fucking stupid. Right? I wanna listen to my 8 tracks and fucking tear ass around town. Right? Like, that's all they. So, or if you told people in the 30s that we were gonna watch TV all the time, that's what my childhood was. They would have been like, that sounds awful. So again, it feels unavoidable. Like, I don't know what can be done. And I feel like a lot of people would say, shouldn't do anything, it's fine. Like, a lot of people aren't worried. We keep coming back to, like, we don't even hear each other, right? Like, again, the more I had to deal with this weekend, it was just my written words. Like, if you're not sure what someone has said and they've written it down, you can go look. I told him that. I was like, go look at what I said. I'd be interested to know if you've changed it. He wasn't even seeing what I wrote, you know? That's crazy. That's crazy. What time is it, by the way?
10:20.
Thank you. Okay. I guess we've done enough. Mostly me and Maya. But again, some of you participated non-verbally, which I do appreciate. I would love for you to, it seemed like some of you had something to say, but you didn't. So what I was trying to do there, that, I'm pretty sure went longer than 20 minutes, by the way. That's the spirit of what I'd like you to try to do with your project. And I'll say this. If you want to start with a question or two written down, that's fine, because starting from nothing can be pretty daunting, okay? But what I would not recommend is having a whole list of questions, because what that ends up being is maybe you and a partner going, and what do you think of the current social media climate? I think, sometimes you'll even write down your answers, I think it's not good, because that is fucking terrible. What I was trying to illustrate for you guys, and some of you didn't want to play along, at least not out loud, this is a thing you can talk about. We've been talking about it all semester, for one, but you've been living your lives this way for years. You have thoughts on it. Even if you haven't sort of concretely thought them before, it's in there. You got opinions, you got ideas, you might have concerns. You can talk about that stuff. And again, the through line is, all I'm looking for, any and everything we've talked about this semester, right? Any of that. When you look at how you use social media now, what do you think about it? Are there some bad things that you wish you could change, like you feel like you can't? Do you think it's great? Did nothing impact you this semester? I'd be interested to hear that perspective. I think it's kind of crazy, but I would be interested to hear about it, about why, anything like that. You can do it solo, you can do it with a partner, that's kind of up to you. But what I'm trying to say is, I would try to let it be a little more freeform. Because sometimes you guys over-structure the thing, and it ends up not going well, okay? You trust yourself a little bit to be able to talk about this stuff. More so than you trusted yourselves today. All that said, our papers are due Friday night, 11:59 p.m., right, Blake? Does anybody have any other questions, concerns? We talked about Works Cited last time. I'm sure that was enthralling. But anything you're not super feeling good about in terms of the paper that you'd like to talk about real quick?
Oh, wait.
Yes.
So what was that thing like that helped us with the works cited?
Oh, if you Google the OWL at Purdue, stands for Online Writing Lab. Purdue is a college in Indiana, I think. It's a free style guide. What that used to be when I was a student, is a book you would have to buy for a class like this. That's all about MLA and APA. Can you imagine? Ugh. And we'd have to read it, and we'd have to do things with it, and it was $70. And then you go to trade it in at the end of the semester, and it'd be out of date, because they update it all the time. So what I do instead is I tell you, go here, it's free. It's got an MLA guide. At some point you'll be in a class, probably a psych class or something that wants you to use APA. It's got an APA guide. You click on that. All kinds of information on Works Cited that you'll never want to know. But you can look through a little bit and it'll help you double check your Works Cited page. You can also use a thing like my personal favorite, because it's what I used when I was in school, easybib.com. It's called a bib generator. You plug in the information that you have, and it spits out a citation, right? And I'm sure there's other websites you guys know about. This is the one I know about. The one thing I would caution you against here is that this is a dumb robot. And I mean that. It's helpful, but it's not always 100% right. So whatever it gives you, I would then look at that website and double check. And also, if you copy and paste from a website, a lot of you don't realize this, you bring the formatting with you. So like the font will be different, or sometimes your paper all of a sudden will have a gray background, things like that. You probably want to fix that. Not least of which because there are some professors who think copy and pasting from websites is plagiarism. They're dumb, but they're in charge of your grade in those classes, so you want to fix that stuff. Good question. Other question? You guys. Silent guys. Okay. The only other thing, I got a couple more things I want to tell you, and then I'll let you go. So go ahead and be excited, I suppose. I want to remind you of a couple, I guess we'll call them guardrails for the paper, okay? Number one, it is very easy, and I'm looking at some rough drafts, and I'm not seeing as much, which is good. I think you're hearing me, at least sometimes, right? But I'm telling you, the biggest trap you can fall into is talking to me about what this person did, whatever it was. Either you're pissed at them too, or you're trying to defend them. I've had some of those. We can't do that. That's not what the paper is. And the good news is, if you're doing that, it's usually pretty easy to spot, okay? What we gotta focus on, what was the response? What does that response, if we look at like specific aspects of it, what does that say about us? Our values, our priorities as a people, society, and culture, okay? Any of that, that's what your paper's gotta do. Anything else, you pretty much gotta cut out, unfortunately, okay? You gotta have that hard moment with yourself where you look through and you take that stuff out. The other thing I would remind you about, I didn't realize this would be such an issue, but I've seen it in a couple papers. Really don't need a lot of background information about these people, okay? I would say 2 sentences at the top of your paper. If you really want to, somebody told me all about Andrew Tate I was reading this morning. This is not you, by the way, it's somebody else. He's in the news, so I have a couple people write about him, right? But this one person wrote me like a paragraph, like a biography of his career. You don't have room in your paper for that. You don't. Give me 2 sentences. Andrew Tate, former kickboxer, now super famous social media influencer, period. Recently got into a lot of trouble based upon, I mean, don't say this, but like awful shit he said about women, basically. Another period. Now, if you want to give me a quotation about an awful thing he said, that'd be great. That's 3 sentences. And then 2 to 3 sentences, talk to me about the response. Yeah? That's all the room you have. Because what's going to happen if you don't do that, and that's what happened in the paper I'm thinking about, that's what happens in every paper that does this. If you go longer than that, all you do is you rob yourself of room to make an argument. All of you know about how long an introduction should be. You have a shot clock in your head. We've talked about this. If you go too long up top, the second half, which is where your argument lives, shrinks. That's where your grade comes from. I need some of this. I need to know what's going on. But if you don't make an argument, it's not going to go well. So trim this. Give me more of this. And it's the hard stuff, but it's the stuff we've talked about all semester, the roadmap, the thesis. What does any of this say about us? If you're not doing that, force it. I mean that. Make it happen. Don't give me a book report on Andrew Tate or whoever you're writing about. I don't need that information. Do you have questions about any of that? Yes.
What if you talk about like his punishment and it kind of shows the values of society? Because like,
It can, yeah.
Okay.
Like he got canceled, right? He got kicked off of
Yeah, like his
Different.
punishment was worse than like a drug user or something like
Was
that.
it?
Yeah. Like if like
Getting kicked off YouTube is worse than like going to jail.
what?
You said a drug punishment. When people get punished for drugs, they go to jail.
Yeah, no, like it said in the article that Rocker, his punishment from MLB was
Oh, it was worse punishment in terms of MLB. Okay. Yeah. Oh no, we talked about that a little bit. Yeah, in that particular case,
I can't get background.
no, a little bit, but you'd want to be quick with it.
Yeah.
Really, all you need is the quotation you're talking about. It sounds like somebody actually said
Yeah.
his punishment was. That's good. Do that, because then you can think about what we talked about. I don't want to fill you guys in so you know what the hell we're saying. The guy she's writing about in '99, was
Yeah.
it? Said really awful things about foreigners and homosexuals
Yeah.
and probably women. I don't know, all of them, just all of them, all the things you could say. Yeah, he said all of that. And he got suspended from baseball in 1999. That's 23 years ago. You weren't alive, probably. And it's interesting because he was kind of famously really not the first case of people saying messed up things. They've been doing that forever. But the first kind of famous case, at least in baseball, of being punished in a meaningful way, more so than you would be punished for like steroids and stuff. Which is interesting because when it comes to baseball, I don't think anybody should say those things. I want to be clear. But when it comes to a sport, which one is worse? Is it saying the awful stuff or is it fucking cheating, right? Like you would think, and traditionally it had been the case, steroids would get a worse punishment. But in this moment in time, in history, it's the opposite. So I would say in that body paragraph, and this would later apply to your thesis, this is kind of a moment we as a society maybe decided our priorities are going to change. Some things are bigger than sports, maybe. That's what that suggests to me, right? Because the drug thing, that's really about sports. That's about what's fair and what's not. This suggests that we decided some things are bigger, some things matter more than sports, maybe. And then, of course, you'd have to decide what you think those things are specifically. But yeah, you're right, body paragraph about that. And you wouldn't, like I said, you wouldn't need a ton of background information. We would know what he said, because that would be in your intro. When it gets to your body paragraph, give me a little bit of context for the quotation, and then you can give me your argument. Okay? Any other questions like that? That was a good question. Okay. Work on your papers. They're due Friday night. If you have questions for me, you can hit me up. We can figure it out. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Thank you. Do you guys talk to people outside of this room? I mean, do you do that? Try it for me. See how it goes.